Let's review Weeylite Ninja 400 Mark II, a 150 watt bicolor LED that can be used for video and still photography. This is ArtIsRight. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. Weeylite sent me this Ninja 400 Mark II for review. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. So if you've been following this channel, I have reviewed Weeylite Ninja 200. That is a smaller LED bicolor, very similar to this one. It's just less power output. And the size form factor of that light is really small. It can run off battery. I mean, it just makes it a perfect LED light or continuous light source you can really just take on location with you. This is the larger sibling, and obviously there are ways to run this off battery. For example, a V-type would be one of them. But before we get into all of those nitty-gritty details, let's look at what comes in with this kit. So you get a carrying case. Most of the LED lights on the market today come with its own carrying case, one form or another. Rarely are you going to get the light only in a cardboard box, so they always come in these nice cases. Inside there, what you get is a shoulder strap, so this is for you to carry the light around. That works fairly well. The case is pretty well built. You get the light itself. This is the Ninja 400 Mark II. You can see there, and I mean, it's just pretty much a LED, as you can see. This is a bicolor, so it can go from 2800 Kelvin up to 6800 Kelvin, which is good. Generally, what's going to come down to is that the number readout on the control panel for the light is never going to be 100% accurate to that specific color that's outputting, but it's going to come close enough, so that's good. The other thing great about this light as well is that it has a high CRI, or high color rendering index. That means you're going to get really good color reproduction coming out from this light. In addition to this, there are a few other things. You get the power cord. So these are the cord that runs directly from this light into the ballast or the controller. There is a clamp that comes with this, a power cord, a power adapter, and this is the power adapter that goes into the ballast. You get the little remote. This is the RC11, and in my Weeylite Ninja 200 review, I have mentioned that this may not necessarily be the most reliable way to use this light. However, we're going to test this again and see how this works. Obviously, for this remote, it runs on AAA battery, and there should be some AAA battery that is included in the kit. Although I don't see one right now, so I'll find some AAA batteries to put in here. And lastly, what we do get in this package is the ballast itself. So a couple things neat about this is that you can use a controller. So there are, for example, RJ45 type connections on the bottom that you can link this up to a controller. You can have 50 of these lights and run it off from one singular controller, which I think is really neat and really cool. But we're not going to be going through that. We're just going to talk about the light in general. So what I'm going to do is kind of set this up, and then we'll put this on a light stand. We'll go over it more in detail. So now that I have the Weeylite Ninja 400 Mark II on the stand, there's a few things I want to point out. Is that you have this knob on the side that you can change the angle of light, as you're seeing right now. And one of the things I also want to point out about this by pulling this down is that you have a Bowen mount type connection. So if your lighting accessory is already Bowen, you won't have any problem whatsoever. What you would simply do to remove this reflector is to pretty much push this back, twist, and pretty much that accessory come out. This is the reflector that is included with it. I believe it's 55 degrees. However, it does not come with any grid to narrow down the angles whatsoever. If you want to have those, you have to add that on yourself. And obviously, any other light modifiers you want to add on the system is something that you have to consider as an add-on afterwards. For example, like a softbox or anything like that. But this is pretty much normal and typical for a light like this. All right, beyond that, there are a few things I want to talk about regarding construction of this light in general. We have pretty much a full body that is made out of aluminum, so it's going to do a pretty good job dissipating heat. There's a fan built in, and from my testing so far, the fan will turn on right away once you turn the light on. There is a quiet mode, and there's also a high power mode, which we're going to talk about in just a second. The front and the back of this light is still made out of plastic, so it's one of those things very similar to the Weeylite Ninja 200 I have reviewed. The body is constructed really well. However, if this drops, and in general, you're going to drop between like the front and the back, it may not hold up to impact quite as well down the road, but so far for the price point, I don't think you can really, complain much about that. All right, on the back, there is the, I would say like XLR type output, although this is a modified one and there is a lock. So for instance, I can just press on that release, pull it out, or plug it back in. It comes with the controller right here. So there are different ways that you can control this light. You can do it from this controller. You can do it from the included Bluetooth remote, or if you have an app on your phone, you can certainly control from the app as well. And I think that if you want to use the app on the phone, it is probably the best way to control this light because everything is really straightforward and it gives you a visual feedback of what the different things that you're doing are, which may not show entirely on this display, and it definitely won't show on this little Bluetooth remote. But we're going to talk about that more in just a second. Now, overall, with this, you also have on the back of the controller power coming in at the very top there, and on the back there is a V-type connection as well, so you can use the battery and also have a direct wall power coming in at the same time. It will work. It also comes with this mount. I mean, this is the level of integration of light that I haven't seen before, and I only use like a few brands, so I haven't seen that much of it. But compared to what I'm already using in my studio right now, I really like this because this is a purposefully built piece of equipment to go on a light stand, and you can just boom, lock it in just like that. I mean, that is super cool because on the back there are no velcros or whatsoever for the V-type connection, which works really well. On the other lights that I have, we have velcro all over the place, so I'm using the velcro to tie this to the stand. So this, to me, I really like because again, it's really purposefully built. On the very bottom you have this, I would say, like power adapter ballast thing that just pretty much takes the power, and I'm gonna pull this out to show us what that looks like. It is quite large, and this plugs right into the wall. There's a computer type connection on one end, and pretty much this just goes on to the very top of the controller. All right, so let's turn the light on. The intensity of this light right now, you can see on the screen, the power is at 4% output, so it's fairly low, but it is still a fairly bright light. Obviously, I don't have any modifiers on there right now, so the intensity is going to be higher. The color temperature I have to set at the moment is 5600 Kelvin to match with the current studio light that I have. Inside this Weeylite Ninja 400 Mark II is a 150 watt COB bicolor LED that you can change the color temperature from 2800 Kelvin up to 6800 Kelvin. For instance, if I want to change the color temperature, I press on the center button there so that the color temperature would just blink, and I can make the light really cool, 6800 Kelvin right there, or I can bring the color temperature down and make it really warm at 2800 Kelvin. Now this is giving you some benefit that you may not think about. Obviously you can change the color right then and here on the controller itself, so it gives you a lot of creative control over this. And if you throw in a color gel in front of this light that can change a variety of color temperatures, what you're gonna get is a lot of creative special effect that you can't really do it easily or quite as fast, for instance, with a single color temperature light. So that's some of the advantage that you do get from this light, which I think is really neat. Let's put this back at 5600 Kelvin. And for instance, I'll have this power output at like, different percent you can see right now. So this is running on full power mode, and full power mode would have the fan pretty much like in solid there. This is going to allow me to bring this up to even like 100%. I mean, this is super bright right now, so I'm going to bring this down, obviously. But they also have a silence mode. So in the silence mode, what I can do is press on the quiet button, and the fan symbol is now blinking along with the power, and this will only allow me to go up to as high as around 50%. So far in running this quiet mode or not, I just feel like the fan is just about the same. It's not really loud or anything like that, but you can hear that hum going on, especially just standing next to it right now. Obviously, if you're using a microphone, you can definitely use a low cut on it and it won't be a problem, but the moment you turn a light on, I notice that the fan does come on right away. Obviously, I haven't tested this too long yet running in extended duration, but if my lights are as far away as they are right now in the studio, which I probably would say they are about, I would say like 6 feet away from me to like 10 feet or so, you're definitely not going to be hearing the fan that much at all. So those are just things to think about. All right, let's talk about the control aspect to the light. So we have this controller, which I'm showing you some of the things already. A couple of other things that you can do with this is there are different scene mode, and there are different effects that you can choose there. You can choose a different speed. The only thing that I will comment about this special effect mode, which there are 13 of them that this light can do, is that in the manual, it doesn't tell you effect 1 corresponds to what, effect 2 corresponds to what. There is nothing mentioned in here, just only that, hey, these are the effects that you can use. So you have to cycle through if you're just using this and trying to figure out what is really going on. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about special effect in just a second when we get to the app. Before that, let's talk about controlling this light, some additional ways to do it. One of them is to use the Bluetooth remote that they have included, and I will say that this one, right out of the box, the Bluetooth remote works. There's no pairing or nothing needed, which is really great. This is an experience that is very different than the Ninja 200 I have reviewed, because the remote was working very intermittently with that light. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This one, right out of the box, just functions right away. So I can turn the light off. For example, I can turn the light on. I can change the intensity. I can also go into mode and change the color temperature, for instance. I can do a lot of those things, and the granular control with this light. I can definitely go in and choose a different scene mode too, but I'm not going to really do this, because if you think this screen is somewhat limiting, trying to really use these 5 buttons in a very limited capacity, well, really more like 3 buttons or so to control a different scene mode, is a really cumbersome experience. So we're going to kind of put this away. But if you're just using this, for instance, and you're trying to just change like the lighting intensity and output of it, I mean, this is a quick and easy way to do that. Let's talk about the last way to control this light, and that is through the phone app, which I think is one of the best ways to use this light. So let's start a screen recording on the phone, and what we're going to do is launch the Weeylite app. So now that I have the app launched, you can see right now I can turn this off, I can turn this on, and it just functions right away. There are different modes. I can go in and just slide up and down the intensity, which I think this works extremely well. You can also change the color temperature. You can slide up or down. You can choose a different preset mode, for instance, that I have already built into the program, or I have created a custom one for my Ninja 200. Well, guess what? It just works here too. I can tap on 5600, and now I have a light that matches what I have in the studio. So super easy. Now, the way how they designed their app is to cover a broad variety of products that they have to offer. So we also get, like, for instance, this HSI mode, which is not going to work with this light whatsoever, because it can't do any other color temperature other than warm and cool. So having those colors doesn't do anything. Saturation, not so much. But this is where this thing comes in handy, because there is a scene mode. And this is where you would decipher the number for the different effects to the different scene. You can also control the speed for all these different effects from this app as well, which makes it really great. For example, number 1 corresponds to flash, number 2 firework, 3 is burst, blink, like I believe is like a light bulb blinking, is number 4, flame is number 5, filming is number 6. Not really sure what filming is, for instance. I mean, a lot of these effects are not like the most clearest. I mean, this is a TV effect, so it goes between 2 different colors. Obviously, with TV, sometimes you get even more colors, but because this is only a bicolor, you can only do so much. There is like a welding effect. This is number 8, and there are different curves that you can have the light go up and down, for instance, or like different ways of like doing it. And you can also have the light cycle between warm and cool, and you can do that, and you can, for instance, change the speed of it. And those are the 13 effects that you can do with this light. But if you have to rely on a manual, you're never going to really figure that out. So having this app is definitely something really useful. We're going to put this back at just the regular continuous light mode, so we don't have to really worry about too much about you guys, like, you know, getting headaches from all these effects. So what are some of the other additional things that I found out about this light and testing it? Well, the number 1 thing is that the CRI is important. That is the color rendering index, and there's a different like RA values that you can look at. So in general, what I appreciate about Weeylite is that they post these charts from the color meter on their website when you're looking at the product, so you can see the color response. In general, they claim that the CRI is 95, obviously with different intensity and also the different color temperature, the CRI is going to change. What they have listed on their website and what they have shown for the spectral readout is that the color temperature of 5300 Kelvin, and you can see that popping up on the screen right now. And you can also see that they ran another color temperature check to get the RA value, but when they run this test, they run it at 2677 Kelvin, which may be the lowest setting, which is 2800 Kelvin on this light. But you can see that so far the light is responding really well. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to use this in a full professional production environment, what I would recommend is to get a color meter and then run a check for the lighting setup that you have, especially for a color critical set. So this way it can matches with the light that you already have and work fairly well. And something that I found about this light I really like in general is that it also has Velcro on different wires that comes with this light. Normally you don't really see that on a light at this price value, so they kind of like add a lot of little extra things to it. One of the big things that I'm most impressed about this light is controlling it is super easy. You just link it up and it just goes. You don't have to pair it. And for this model, it just works very seamlessly, very different than the Ninja 200. I love this purposefully built arm that is just meant to mount this controller. I mean, this is a really well thought out light. And let me put it this way. If I don't have studio lights already, I'm looking to build a kit. At this price point, I mean, I would definitely look at getting a few of these if I'm rebuilding my studio at this point in time, because I think this is a really great, compelling product to add to your workflow, to use in a workflow at a price point that doesn't break the budget whatsoever. So that is the Weeylite Ninja 400 Mark II review. Overall, as I already mentioned, this is a really good light at an amazing price point, and a lot of parts that they have done is really purposefully built. So if you're looking for a good light to add to your studio that has a lot of capabilities, I would definitely consider adding this light to your setup. If you have any questions or comment, leave them below. Give this a like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you're new, and in art we trust.